So this morning's talk and activities are all going to be around getting the immediate moment theory into our gut. So in a sense, the immediate moment theory and the whole model is about going by feel, learning how to go by feel. And we're going to get there, though, through our heads. There's a little bit of danger there because our heads are where we don't go by feel, right? So there's a little bit of paradox, a little bit of danger, but I just keep in mind that the goal is not to be able to noodle on it and abstract on it. The goal is to get to a place where you have a gut sense of the relationships, and you can communicate about them. That's the goal of immediate moment. So I'm going to be saying a lot of things like that are like definitive statements, and Kevin may or may not agree with me, and so
risk for the mill.
Yeah. So what I'm definitely any errors are my own, and anything that I've missed or I've mischaracterized, you can either jump in right away or certainly we'll cover afterwards, right? But this is sort of. I feel like this. So I struggled with this material for a long time, and one of my goals has been to how can I save someone else a lot of the struggle that I went through. So is anybody familiar with Thomas Merton? Thomas Merton? Michael, who is Thomas Merton?
A monk.
Okay. Yeah.
Thinking monk, a religious thinker.
Yeah. And so there's something he said that I think is absolutely bullseye on what we're doing here. He said, so say you're a fisherman in a boat in the middle of a river, okay? And you're just hanging out, you're fishing, and you feel this clunk, right? You turn around, and there's an empty boat that's floated up and knocked itself against your boat. Right? And you're like, oh, okay, I'm gonna have to deal with this, right? So you rearrange your stuff, push the empty boat around away, like, okay, didn't get swamped, I'm fine. Wonder where that boat came from, that's odd. Exact same scenario, fisherman in a boat, feel a clunk, turn around, and there's a guy in the boat. What's wrong with you, right? So there are these two reactions, right, that we have, that we can go to. One is an immediate moment reaction. Empty boat, right? Another one is not in the immediate moment. Another one is about splitting self and other, blame. It causes less adaptive, less harmonic reactions. Turbulence, less laminar, more turbulent, right? Fissuring, fracturing, right? And so our goal here is to just see empty boats as much as we can, like just to go for the empty boat. Like, well, I want to understand the forces at play here. Right? Now, there's a reason why this struggle is real, right? And Kevin talked about it a little. We'll go back to the fact. We'll go back to the fundamental. Okay, we got a positive end, we got a plus end.
Whee!
Yeah, so remember that these are raw forces, right? So you've got the fact that we have a positive end and a negative end. We've got a preyful end and a predatory end. It means flow is possible, right? These are two magnets. Now, and that may seem kind of facile, but that's flow, right? If we didn't line up all those beautiful migrations, if we didn't line up nose to tail, they wouldn't happen, right? We have to orient to each other's bodies in order to experience flow, right? We have to orient to preyful and predatory aspects correctly in order to experience flow. If we do the opposite, right? It's like we have all those emotional experiences. Get out of my face, in my grill, I couldn't handle it, you know? We have all those emotional forces start playing on us, right? And the relief, I mean, if you've ever held those two magnets and the relief of getting them lined back up again, okay, whew. And they click all satisfyingly together, right? Become one body, become one organism. So in a very real sense, you could see this, you know, this is one self. And that's part of immediate moment. The sense that for animals, there is just one big self, right? One big self. And when something's uncomfortable on the landscape, when there is a negative, a predatory feeling, it's like their body's uncomfortable. They're not thinking the other is a negative force. They're like, I want to get comfort, right? They want to turn away from the discomfort. They're having an animal experience. It's almost like I like to call it an emotional topography. I probably got that term from you. But it's an emotional landscape. It's an emotional topography, right? And we're experiencing it. And what are emotions but physical sensations? Oh, what a relief. Oh, I was under such pressure, right? I couldn't handle the pressure. I had to get out of there, right? All the ways we talk about emotions. Their physical experience of sweating bullets, you know. Tracy, can we get a ring? So groups of people, us as individuals, we're all orienting to this emotional topography. We're all forming these fields, right? Just like, you know, you get the, you know, the magnetic field, right? Okay, so, you know, you'll get family systems that organize around an alcoholic, you know, tiptoeing, right, in these patterns. You'll get workplace systems that organize around like an unpleasant coworker or a manager who has temper tantrums. And it's not just about toxicity either, you know. Then you can also have a release, more freedom. The system is more healthy. But these maps, like, look at any one part of the system, and that part of the system is telling you about the whole system. And you see this in, I mean, this is, in some ways, this can be called like the fractal nature of complex systems, or self-similarity at different levels, right? Look at one corner, and two people talking to each other tells you about the entire system. All right, so we have this predatory and preyful aspect, and I don't think we've talked really much about what that is, right? So, because as we know, as we discussed some yesterday, a good leader can become preyful, you know. A person with a larger emotional capacity can flip and be like, oh, your turn, you know, you go, right? Oh, I want to hear your idea, right? And that capacity means that we're not like talking about defined roles that don't change. You know, the wolf can be preyful, the deer can be predatory, as we saw with the dog and the stag, right? They were They were flopping, and the dog was like, oh, this is great. I want the thrill of flight, of fleeing, right? Where normally that would be the deer's role, right? So what our landscape, the physical world, because we are on an unbroken continuum from, inanimate, not animal, to animate, animal, right? So air and water and stones, and we're on an unbroken continuum with raw material to what we think of as organisms. That means that our conception of the world is an emotional conception, right? There is no object that doesn't have an emotional value or topography to it, right? So thinking in those raw terms, what are predatory aspects? So this isn't what a predator, who is a predator? No. These are what give things predatory qualities, predatory value?
Eyes?
Eyes. Yes. Right?
Height.
Height. Now, why do the eyes have a predatory value? Yes. That's another.
Metaphorical, I can see into you.
So when something reflects, what is it doing? When something sees into, what is it doing? I mean, how do you get in?
It's like penetrating.
Penetrating.
Exposing.
Projecting, there we go. So predatory aspects project energy.
Could I add something?
Yes.
Your point see into that being. I want to add see back into you.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Reflects back into you. The only way you can see into you is that way, the reflect back part.
Yeah.
What about proximity? If I see something far away, it doesn't seem quite as scary as when it's right up close to me.
That would be height.
Okay.
What about things that are abrupt or startling? Sudden, yeah,
Break in the continuum.
yeah.
It's the same as the eyes. And it reflects as a break in the continuum. The continuum is the positive. The break in the continuum is the negative. So the negative gives you access to the positives. If you want to peel the orange, you find the break in the continuum. It gives you access to the fruit. The eyes give you access to the essence.
Like, so what, crow's picking at a carcass, right?
Yeah.
Go for the eyes.
Yeah.
Or if there's like a hole, like a gunshot hole, or some other animal has made a hole, that's where you go to open up the carcass, right?
Right.
It's the negative, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Stillness?
Or stiffness, for that matter.
Well, that's curious, what are you referring to?
Yes, so why?
Ever see a hawk on the tree? Darth Vader, ultimate predator.
Oh, you're
Yeah.
Still staring,
predatory aspects.
upright.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Upright.
So not making a wave, I think, would be essentially the point there. It's like, it's another break. It's like, no, the trees are softening back and forth, and then there's, a shape, a dark shape, right, that's still. So if you go for walks, go for nighttime walks, what freaks you out? What makes you go, what, what is, it's a lamp, or, that's just, this silhouette, we have these experiences, yeah.
Could we think about that stillness and stiffness as that inviting to complete the wave, like inviting the prey, like we talked about before, like creating space for it? It's almost like the void, because it's like, now there's this pressure, thing that's not taking action, but it's also just like, seems like one-sided, and like looking for like that prey to like present itself and create the wave between the two.
It's like you have to be attracted to it.
It can create a new frame of reference, you collapse into that, and it can be a stimulant that way, yes.
Yeah. I would almost think though, wouldn't it be if you see that dark shape and you're like, what is it? And then it wiggles and then now you have access. Like, cause it's, and then it gets still again, but you're like, some part of you is relaxed because there's this access that was created. Solid walls of resistance, we tend to go around, like if we're smart, right? Unless you push against them for years. But if going from our gut mind, going by feel, we find ways around things. We find the easiest opening, right? We look for the opening, right? Yeah. Is that?
It grants access. The negative grants access to the positive.
Yeah. That sounds like we'll have to talk more about that later. Because there is some, there's some point of view stuff here. There's also what you found works for you. You may be hungry for high resistance that would push others away or overwhelm, right? So there's also, your local experience on that emotional map on how you relate to the world. There's a couple of other good ones here, and some obvious ones that are predatory aspects we haven't mentioned. So what else is there? I mean, just think of a predator, a classic predator. Quietness. That kind of goes with stillness, stiffness, quietness,
We even put that as static, right?
static. What else? What else does a predator have?
Kind of like along with the eyes, it's a focus, like they're, that Darth Vader like focus points and like a more diffuse like view of the whole environment, or like single point focus.
Mm-hmm. So that kind of goes to the projecting.
Speed and power.
Speed, so there we have maybe our suddenness, speed. What else is reflective on a predator? What else is shiny? What?
Teeth,
Yes,
teeth.
so white. Also breaks, right? So you have jaggedness as opposed to, right? They're literally there to break up the continuum. That's their job, the teeth. Yeah.
What's kind of interesting about humans, is that our teeth have changed over the less predatory aspects and more masticating aspects but yet we're considered, predator.
Still got canines.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure,
yeah.
but they,
Even the front ones are pointing from the side.
right,
Yeah.
yeah, so we've,
Our hands are our teeth.
Yes. So this is one of my favorite things you say, Kevin, is our grip is our bite.
what?
Our
Grip
grip.
is, oh.
So
okay.
dogs bite and carry, they get relaxed. We like to work with our hands. Oh, I feel relaxed.
Gives
Our
the corporate handshake a whole new view.
Right? Gives those like that shoulder massage that is a little too stiff. Like, what is this? This is a predator, right? Right?
The handshake's a super big thing in this culture,
Right.
especially corporate.
Yeah.
Like, oh, Mr. Donald.
Yeah.
His-
Yeah.
That's interesting, because it switches, as a baby, their bite is their bite.
Right.
It switches.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Become dexterous.
Oh,
Yeah, I did a little karate, and you have to learn, when you go to throw a punch, my instructor said, as you go to throw the punch, your infant memory comes up to bite,
Ah.
and you break your finger. That's why basketball players, they're not trained, so they always break their fingers if they get into fights. And the batter rushes the pitcher, he's gonna throw a punch, but what does he end up doing? They end up wrestling on the ground,
Yeah.
because they're not trained fighters, they revert to they
Yeah.
wanna bite, but see, that's weird.
Yeah.
So they end up wrestling. And that's why they tape a boxer's hand, because he doesn't train the fist like a martial artist. So they just tape it. Otherwise, he'd open his hand when he goes to punch.
So you revert back to instinct under pressure?
Yes. Under intensity, you revert to physical memory of infancy.
I was 6 years old on a bus, and
Pardon?
I was 6 years old on a bus, and somebody wouldn't let me sit next to them. I did one
Yeah.
hard.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's just like,
Yeah.
So,
that was the only thing I could think of to do, was
Yeah. The
get
animal.
away from me.
Right.
Well, yeah.
See that all day long.
Yeah,
Yeah, you do.
They grab and bite, it's like.
yeah.
And notice only,
Predatory?
What's that?
Pressure is like unrelenting pressure, not,
well, that's a good point. If force, speed, and power is directed approaching is predator.
yeah.
Speed and power going away or side to side is prey.
Yeah, there's a thing here of all, what, if you're moving into a predatory force, what are you experiencing? If I'm going this way and speed and power is going this way, what is the result? What do I
And
experience?
that's what I was thinking about with proximity, is that I just get anxious when
Mhm.
somebody's
Mhm.
up on me.
Well, but if you're sexual, it's not that. You like proximity. So it depends if you're
Yeah,
electric
yeah,
or magnetic.
okay.
So proximity is great, magnetic, sexual, sensual. But it's repulsive if it's electrostatic.
I guess I don't put prey and predator together with sexual energy, so I was just thinking strictly of prey and predator.
Yeah.
That proximity of a woman walking alone on the street
Yeah,
and having
sure.
someone come up behind me,
Yeah.
not knowing who they are, and,
See, that's a break in your continuum.
yeah,
That's why it's shocking.
yeah.
Yeah, we're going to put predatory and preyful aspects, we're gonna connect them to the hunger and balance minds. And that's gonna make a lot of things that are like, oh, well, I could go either way, make a lot more sense.
And just to fast forward, sexual energy is an elaboration of prey predator.
See, and that's a connection I don't make currently, so I'm looking
Yeah,
forward to hearing about
we'll
that.
get there, we'll get there.
Yeah, okay.
We're getting step by step, okay. So there's one last one, and this is also one that you mentioned, Kevin, a bunch, that I think is really hilarious. And so we talked about, stillness, reflective. So I don't know if some of you may have had cats or dogs who don't like still water in their dish. And in fact, they'll paw it to get it moving. They're like, because it's a big frickin' eye, It's terrifying. Not only that, but then you go into a frozen pond is in fact very dangerous, right? So that's reflective. It's also hard. When it breaks, it's jagged and has teeth, right? So landscapes have these predatory values: jagged rocks, soft moss, right? A tracker mentor of mine once found a fox skeleton perfectly curled up, perfectly settled into this moss bank under this huge cedar tree, with this view of a creek and this, you could see the sunset, right? And it was just right there, in paradise, right? So that was the lap of the mother, right? That's this super preyful. There's no predatory aspect anywhere near. Creek bubbling and talking, everything's soft, So this room has predatory and preyful values, right? These chairs have predatory and preyful values. Our clothes have predatory and preyful value. The camera is a major predatory aspect, right? Try and smile at a camera, right? And you're like, this camera is seeing right into me, it's drilling me, So, over and over and over again, the things that shock you or startle you, and when you're sort of, not entirely, you're not in your head and you're in a between state, and you can really recognize what gets you, right? You find in your workplaces, with friends and family, who makes eye contact, who can handle eye contact, is going to tell you who can accept a projection of energy, whether they're in their guts or their minds, right? So who doesn't ever make eye contact? That's a real thing, right? So these things that we're like, well, how do you know? Those two people never talk and never make eye contact, but how do I know they don't get along? Well, that is data, right? That's emotional data. That's a literal topography that you can hike and walk and stand and look at, right? All right, so anything we might have missed?
Yeah, you mentioned the moss, add hardness.
Hardness, which is the frozen pond, the rock, hardness, jaggedness, suddenness.
So, I've been infected by a colleague, Sally Ann Freudenberg, who talks a lot about neurodiversity. And neurodiversity in our workplaces, neurodiversity in our societies, in our communities. And so when you talk about not making eye contact, I think about the people who maybe are on the spectrum for whom eye contact is just too much stimulation, or people for whom eye contact is a cultural thing. If you don't make eye contact because you respect this other person, you don't want to be predatory toward them, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't know, that's
Well,
just
yeah, so it's all in
that's a
context.
whole kind of,
Yeah,
so I know that until I know more about a situation, while my first instinct might be to go there, I always hope my second instinct is to say, well, are these people really at odds with each other, or does one of them just not make eye contact for some other reason, right?
yeah.
I mean,
So you're talking, so if
Yeah.
that person's not making eye contact with anybody,
yeah,
right?
that's, yeah,
Or if there's, I mean, this happens.
okay.
There'll be a person on your team, in your group, in your family, who makes eye contact with everybody else but you. And you're like, what is going on? And they're like, nothing. You know, you corner them, nothing's wrong. It's like something's wrong, right? So this is like,
So it's if it's the break in the continuum, if
Right.
it's
Yeah, and-
as opposed to if it's always that way.
And bear in mind, this is like the architecture of the animal mind.
Right.
And some of what you're saying, is very high level,
Right.
super high level. But we're talking about
yeah,
Okay.
the very, very,
base.
very autonomic, this is below the nervous system stuff. Nature comes pre-coded, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
So just a thought, I don't know, it keeps bouncing around my head, powerful icon, as another person might concern that, see that as theft. Does that make sense? You know, it's like.
theft of what? What is it?
Theft.
Yeah, what did, a
Well,
powerful.
in other words, you don't, because you don't want to, whatever it is that.
Oh, yeah. Well, right. So in some cultures, you don't make eye contact. It's respectful. If you try and drill someone with eye contact, I mean, even in our culture, there's people who make way too much eye contact. I'm like, what is your deal? You know, like you just want to put your hand up.
Sort of like if you accept that, it's maybe
Yeah.
possibly, you know, I don't want to.
Yeah, I don't want to talk to you. I don't.
It's sort
Right.
of like you see that as theft.
Absolutely, theft of
In the
attention,
Hispanic
theft of
culture,
time.
I've
Yeah.
been living around, in that and around
Yeah.
it, and for me, and so this business of being, which is kind of curious, you know, and so as Westerners look at that as
Right.
kind of what, not, you know, in other words, they don't look somebody straight in the eye.
Yeah.
So-
Firm handshake, looking straight in the eye. What is all that,
Yeah.
right? I mean, the whole energy level has all been ramped up. Relationships are more charged. They're more aggressive.
Yeah.
Business has always really been
Yeah.
war under another name, right? So
just
this
noticed
country was
more-
founded on those principles, right?
More of a sense in
right?
Hispanic culture of,
Yeah.
of, you know, not,
Yeah.
you
Yeah. Right.
know,
More room, more
res-
prayful, like, so if you're living shoulder to shoulder in a community, you know, do you want to provide as many energy sinks, energy grounds as possible, or do you want as much energy projection as possible? Like, what do you want? Do you want prayful or predatory aspect in your community, right? I mean, this is, you know, sort of obvious, right? I mean, so given, if you are living in a place where there's windows, or there's reflection, where there's reflective metal, where there's reflective screens in every pocket, where there's, you know, all the communication is instant and sudden and immediate and alerts, what do you think's gonna happen, right? You're gonna get all this charge, building and building, and then it's gonna fissure and explode, right? Horrific, you know, news, you know, horrific acts, right? You know, and so this emotional topography is critical to understanding why some communities work, why some workplaces work, why some, you know, forms of dog training, animal rehabilitation, right, healing modalities work, and why some don't, right? I give you a pill, why don't you exercise more? Blah, blah, blah. Like, well, what's sticking charge into the system? Oh, I gotta go to the doctor. He's going to stare me down and ask me, you know, I don't wanna go to the doctor, right? So you've avoided the predatory gaze, and now you're getting sicker. I mean, you can see, this is what all these projections and absorptions do is deform you and deform your community. You're like a paramecium squishing side to side. Your body deforms. You're pushed to the one way or the other, right? Like with those bristle bots, you know, there's like these organizational fields emerge where whatever the dominant energy systems, the dominant topography, we're all gonna organize around it. Can't help it. And then we'll rationalize it after the fact, you know? So,
I was introduced to a team and I was gonna talk to them and do some introductions.
yeah,
And everything's going great, I'm trying to soften up the group, I'm a stranger there, so I'm doing everything I can to loosen them up. But one guy gets really rigid on me, and he's staring at me really intensely, and I swear to God, sweat's popping out of his forehead.
Well.
So I try even harder, I'm just trying to get this guy to ease up.
yeah,
And we're going, all of a sudden he stands up, bolts out of the room.
yeah.
Comes back in, and afterwards I go up to him, I said, I'm really curious, I gotta know, what happened there? I was trying really hard, God, I had to go pee.
There you go. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, which was an experience of pressure, right? So, I mean, you know, there's all kinds of different ways the body can feel pressure and release, right? And in fact, one, you know, world of tracking, world of dog training, one way to relieve pressure is to poop, another one, right? Which we'll get into too. It's funny. So let's go for prayfulness. What aspects are prayful? What qualities in the landscape and people, shape, pattern, movement?
Oh, interestingly, when I think about prayful, one of the first things I think about is eyes again, but big, soft eyes, right?
Okay.
Baby eyes, puppy eyes, you know? And so I'm curious about,
Okay, yeah, that would be the softness
yeah.
relative to hardness.
Okay,
So that would minimize for you the pressure of the eyes
okay,
and make it seem open.
okay.
I would even say squinting eyes, right? Because
As opposed to a fixated stare.
as opposed to a fixated stare. So there's a thing here. So, you know, those little porcelain dolls with the eyes, right? We all know about those, right? Clowns,
Chucky?
happy clowns with the big eyes, right? Big mouths.
Yeah, well, notice the eyes of the prey, horse, cow,
Yeah.
deer, vis-a-vis the predator.
Right, all right, 'cause
Yeah,
They look sideways.
they're-
yeah.
they're
Focus
sideways.
versus diffuse.
Yeah.
Focus versus diffuse.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So there's
Intensity versus
yeah.
diffuse.
Yeah, is it projecting energy? Is it sharp, sudden, jagged, right?
Right.
I mean, well, so one thing, what do people love to stare at? What do people love to hang out by? What do people love to swim in, boat on, watch the lights sparkle on, right? Water is so intensely prayful. There was a research done in Europe, was it Australia or Europe? I can dig this up if anybody wants the citation, but it was,
Can you use a different color?
oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
completely.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
It's not reflective enough.
Is this good? Is that too?
That's
No?
all right.
Okay, I'll just stick with green and purple.
Dark color.
Okay, so
Yeah.
there was some research done quality of life, rates of depression, satisfaction index done, and how it correlates to communities around water, lakes, rivers. They didn't count fountains. I think they should have counted fountains. But they just stuck to major bodies of water, and it was like 1-to-1, right? Water, right? So you get, the prayfulness is like this real thing. It's this real embodied emotional value on the landscape.
Could you run that by me? I'm still trying to get the connection with water.
Water, moving water that, because of course stillness, right, can be dangerous, right? The more you're around moving water and large bodies of water, the lower the rates of suicide, depression, the higher you declare your satisfaction with your life, your happiness index, like all these different ways of testing.
What's the connection there then, the thought about its properties?
Well, so instead of going up here, like what's your experience with water? When you go into water, does it absorb your energy or bounce you back out? When does it feel good? When you look at it, is it harsh on your eyes or is it like pull you in? Like you yourself have an entire life of reasons why water is good for your mental health and pulls you in, right? Every experience you've ever had with water, if you describe it, you'll be describing why, right? Weightlessness, right?
Yeah.
It absorbs energy. It absorbs emotion.
Right?
It absorbs energy.
Yeah,
Water.
mostly water to begin with anyways.
And we
Yeah.
start in
Does that have
water.
something to do with it, maybe?
We start in water. We're floating around in water for 9 to 10
Oh,
months.
sure, yeah.
So if you jump into it, it'll absorb you.
Yeah.
It won't reflect you.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, and so there's the physics reason, which is always there and we can always go to and is really good to point out. But I also think there's an opportunity there, like some of these things you might be like, well, why is that? Or the eyes thing. Well, eyes are cute. I like eyes. And isn't that prayful, right? And so if you have the capacity to go into your feelings of like, well, how do I experience that? So one thing about the eyes is, as Kevin has mentioned, eyes are pretty predatory, and they can be pretty predatory even in babies. So babies are overall very prayful, but so is like our, food is prayful. We want to eat the food. We want to, look at that turkey dripping with juice, and it's all chubby and good, and I'm gonna, eat that. But the eyes on a baby are huge. And so we're like looking, I want to eat you up.
Yeah, right.
Oh, look at those chubs, I just nom nom nom.
Right.
And then the eyes lock us and hypnotize us. This is real, so we don't eat our babies. So you gotta remember that all the taboos, I was telling Kevin I was gonna title this the gunky funky world of immediate moment, because there is this like animal gunk at the base of everything. Animals kill and eat, right? And to live, we do these things. There's fluids and there's memories and trauma and dark, right? And it's a pretty muddy, mucky world, right? Of the animal world, like dogs rolling in dead seagulls and, like eating poop, this is great to be an animal, right? So we're like, whoa, we think of ourselves way far from that, and but part of being here is acknowledging the emotional nature of everything we experience, and how these taboo thoughts and taboo things we don't really like to think. I don't want to think about eating my kids, right? But there's a thing there that has caused us to make it this far, right? Be successful as organisms, to reproduce. And, we can have children and not eat them because they have this perfect balance of predatory and prayful, right? So we do this with pets, right? Where, I could just eat you up. You're so good. I just want to, right? We use this language because it's true. It's absolutely true. And
We use food words
we use
for
food,
pets.
we use food words.
Muffin.
Muffin.
Yeah.
Yeah, pumpkin.
No muffin.
They're so delicious.
Yeah. How many times have I said I could just eat those paws? I can't count, you know? They're pretty good.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know. So what else is prayful? Prayful values, aspects in the landscape. I mean, we just, you know, think about children, setting the eyes aside. What about them? What about those pauses? You know, can you just eat? You know, what are those? What are we talking about? Round. So, like this, not, right? Not jagged, sudden, but smooth, waveful.
Curvaceous.
Curvaceous. What else?
Movement.
Movement. But what kind of movement?
Route.
Rhythmic.
Or meandering.
Rhythmic. Yeah, because sudden and direct, right, would be predatory. What else?
Wave-like, I would add.
Yeah.
Elaboration word. Oh, you already drew it, right?
So, so here's a really cool thing. So you mentioned yesterday, and I don't know if anybody caught it, that the rear of a lot of these magnificent, you know, I mean, you know, most animals really, but I mean, especially you look at elk or you look at deer butts or horse butts, right? Male or female, they have these rumps that are like giant vulva, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a cleft, you know, it's like right there, right? So the wave, the curve, right? The absorbing energy, right? You want to jump up in there and right, right? And there's this, so what this made me think is, so Jana has this thing, this website she likes to go to called Cute Overload, right? And it's October, so it's time for Talktoberfest, right? Talk as in buttocks, Toberfest. So they've got images of bunny talks. They've got images of kitten talks. They've got like all you can see is the rump of a frog, and the rest is like under this rock, and he's just kind of like got his little butt sticking out. They've got a bee and a flower with the little fuzzy rump and the little bee, you know. So it's like, so I mean, it's why. This is why. This is why that's so compelling, and it draws you in, and you're like, oh, it's so cute, right? It's the prayful aspect, right? Talktoberfest is prayful.
Sweatpants are prayful.
Sweatpants. What else? We got curved, we got curvaceous, wave-like, rhythmic. I don't know, that might be most of it. I mean, there's definitely this theme. Oh, what about the fox? What was prey like about that area that the fox
Bouncy.
decided bouncy?
Bouncy.
So that's that energy absorbing. That's the membrane, the trampoline with the,
Right.
you know,
Soft.
Definitely like the texture.
soft. Well, what's
So-
that?
That's just the texture of it, just the
Oh, it's like texture,
yeah, it's-
yeah, soft texture, smooth maybe.
yeah.
Smooth, yeah.
So if height is predatory, then.
Small
Small.
is prayful, yes,
Is
very good.
prayful, yeah.
Take the opposite of predator, you got prey.
And just the image of a springbok just came to
Yeah.
mind. You know, they've got pointy horns and pointy
Yeah.
noses and stuff, but they've got.
Yeah, yeah.
You can just look at them, and go, oh, look at that, isn't that cute?
Yeah, which is probably, you know, in some ways, maybe that's why we get the tiny yap dog in the city, because we're like, oh, prayful, cute, sweet, and we don't compute that it's like the big dog, that's the low frequency, that's gonna be more adapted. Farzana, you had your,
Can you say color? Like light?
Ooh, white, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, look at the underside of the animals, light colored, the butt. So, what's it, dorsal predator, ventral, or the other way around? Prey.
Ventral is the belly.
is dorsal? No, that's
Dorsal's
ventral.
belly. Ventral's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
belly.
Dorsal, predator, ventral, prey.
Hmm.
And that's why you see the pattern, dark, light.
The soft
So
underbelly.
I've heard the
rumps.
horse people tell me the dark horses pick on a white horse in a meadow. Have you heard that?
I haven't.
I've heard that from a horse person, that the white horses always get picked on by the dark horses.
So,
And the temperament of a dark dog is stronger typically than of a light colored dog.
Larsen shelters too, like no one adopts
Yeah.
dogs?
I think the Oakland Raiders got more penalties when they wore the black uniforms than you know, the Giants with their.
Yeah, Johnny.
Kevin, when you say the temperament of dark dogs is stronger, do you mean
Yeah.
stronger in the way you used stronger yesterday as like a greater capacity?
Yes.
Or? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and keep in mind too, white, and you turn it up to 11 and it's brilliant light, that's gonna be energy projection. So white light though can diffuse and soften, and so it's always, you know, keep it in context, right? It's about your body's experience. In fact, anytime you see something up here and you're like, that goes in 2 categories, well, feel your relationship to it. Feel it in different categories. There's the values. What's cool about this and cool about constructal law in general is like our bodies are perfect navigators of these systems. They're born from them, they're designed off of them. Most of the cutting edge research about human perception is like just restating that over and over instead of thinking that we should have boxes and rigid roles. So use your own gut computer, your gut, you know, dictionary, what is what, yeah.
I'm curious, yin, I always think of as dark and hidden. And it's a very soft thing.
Is one male, one female?
That's one, yeah, that's that's in one iteration of it.
Yeah.
Yang,
Which one?
Male is yang and yin is.
Which one's dark?
feminine. Pardon?
Which one is dark?
Yang is masculine, yin is feminine.
But yin is dark and yang is light. So the female is dark, low, wet. Male is bright, high,
Projector.
dry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So I mean, you know, it's all context. Yeah, always context, always context.
I have a comment about the soft eyes, just because it's interesting. The only way to ride a horse beautifully is, as a rider, to look with soft eyes. When you look, so you have to take in the entire environment. When you look with hard eyes, it makes the horse tense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, go
I
ahead.
was gonna say about eyes, the one thing I've heard is that when you have very bright eyes, so like ice blue eyes, or they are more reflective and that's why I think context has a lot to do with it, because if we just say bright is soft and inviting, it necessarily isn't.
Yeah.
Because I have brown eyes, and as a kid I wanted green or
Yeah,
blue
yeah.
eyes, and my mom had brown eyes, and she's like, no, you don't want that, because brown eyes are very soft, and they allow you to be positive, even if your pupils are completely contracted.
Yeah,
Your eye is
Yeah.
so dark that the other person maybe doesn't pick, like
yeah.
instinctively doesn't pick up on it, because you have these big, dark, and horses too, they have these velvety, dark, big eyes, and
Yeah.
it's relaxing.
Yeah.
Versus a cat, when my cat is relaxed and it's dark and she has these big pupils, then she's really cute, but when they narrow down, and it becomes all icy yellow, and she's like,
Yeah.
then I'm all like, oh, I'm so glad you're so soft.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah, I would not go with context. I would say it's the projection absorption phenomenon. So for example, the sun is predator energy. The moon is preyful energy.
Okay, that's good.
You can absorb your gaze,
Yes.
but the
There's
sun is the
something
giver of
about-
all life,
yeah.
but you can't look in the eye.
Right.
You're shunned. You have to avert
Unless
your
you're Donald
gaze.
Trump, and that's all good.
And notice, what do we say when kids drop trowel in the back of the bus? We call it mooning.
Right, yeah.
So our butt is our preyful aspect,
Right,
our
right.
our
But, yeah.
south pole.
Come and get me, look at
And
me.
Yeah.
the other thing that caught me was water, because it is so, soft and it absorbs our energy. There is this constant, I have a place at the beach, and there is constant talk about you have to understand the power of water.
Yeah.
you don't, because it seems like we don't understand it. We go into creeks, we drive into creeks with our cars thinking, oh, well, there's a little bit of flooding on there. And they're like, don't do it, don't go into that water.
Yeah.
We know you think it's nothing, but then that
Yeah,
force
yeah,
kicks in. So.
yeah. But it's gonna absorb everything, it'll be good.
So
Yeah,
it seems like
Yeah.
naturally water is for us, and then sometimes it obviously.
There's, speaking of water, you know, that the light playing on water, like all the little wavelets glittering, that quivering, the cat pawing the water to get it moving. So I think, haven't you mentioned that, like, prey will vibrate, will quiver, and that's
Yeah.
like will pull you in?
Right.
So, you know, that's, again, if someone's quivering and sweating bullets and like, I didn't say that, you know, like that's not, right? So it's like, is the quivering pulling you in? Is it absorbing energy? I mean, fundamentally, we're getting down to this, either it projects and it's predatory, or it absorbs and it's preyful. If it projects, it's rolling downhill and it's chasing the thing that's preyful, right? Yeah.
I mean, we sort of touched on this with height, but I think vertical versus horizontal.
Oh, let's write that down. Yeah, that's like the story I was telling last night. Like you see someone, you know, in a sleeping bag on the side of the road sleeping, you're like, ooh, you know, right? They turn around and show their eyes, you're like, whoa, sorry, right? You know, they stand up and they're not as compelling as the one lying down, right? So there's that. So actually we'll put horizontal, yeah.
Repose, I was thinking of that word earlier, repose.
Repose,
Because it implies that sort of, you know, I'm
settling.
not guarded, I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah, an angle of repose.
Well, you gotta add, any product of the body is a prey.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Urine, feces,
Well,
sweat.
let's do essences on the other side.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
The things we never talk about.
Right. So this requires its own special. Because it's good. It explains our children, it explains us when we were children.
Explains scatological humor.
It explains scatological humor, it explains our current behavior. So prayful essences, right?
Any secretion of the body,
So we got
or a product of the body.
earwax, we got BO, we got urine. What else?
Bloggers.
Blood. Well, with the boogers.
Yeah, phlegm.
What else?
Phlegm.
Phlegm. Oh, phlegm. Sweat, yes.
Tears.
Tears.
Do you want to give a special section for menstrual blood?
Menstrual blood.
Carrion.
Carrion.
What?
Poop. My 14-year-old would say scabs. Loves to pick them. Loves to project energy into them. Oh, they
But carrion, I'm curious, why carrion?
Yeah, what is,
It's a product of the body.
True, but
oh, after we're dead.
a
what it's
body that's,
it's prone. It absorbs energy. You get, you ingest it. Doesn't.
They notice dogs roll in it.
Dogs roll,
oh,
right?
They're
Right.
smitten by it.
Everything. It's all. Everything about it is.
Completes the circuit, emotional barrier. Anything a dog smells is a preyful essence.
So we got smells.
What about hair and fingernails that can?
Vomit. Hair. Hair. Semen. Nails. So this is all the stuff that, ew, don't talk about it, don't think about it.
Bile.
But, well, bile?
Bile.
Bile. Yeah, I mean, there's the thing of like, how many of us blow into a handkerchief and then look at it? Why am I looking at it? I'll never forget. I'll never forget when I was in high school. I was a sophomore and I was in US history of the world or whatever, and there was like this 16th century aristocrat's guide to behavior at parties. And a friend of mine and I were just laughing our butts off. And one of the rules was, please, when you blow your nose, do not look at it as if pearls or jewels have come flying out. And I was like, even then they did it? Like, whoa, you know, so, like, how, you know, poop in a toilet. How many of us look at it, you know? The whole thing of peeing, finding a point on the ground, you know? And you're like, guys will do that, draw their names in it, right? So we have this obsession with these prayful essences. There's no reason to look at, why are we looking at that? It's out, it's done, right? But it's absorbs energy. It's interesting. It's of the body. It catches our attention. It relaxes us. It takes some charge off. That's really what we're talking about.
So that's why you're saying it's a prayful essence, because it absorbs.
Yes, prayful essence will take stress, will accept the projection of energy, which by definition means energy is exiting you. Stress is, flow, right? That's what we want. We want to turn stress into flow.
Now notice how the mother is so happy with the baby's poop.
Oh,
Yeah.
You know, she's not disgusted by it. She's like, oh, the healthy baby.
yeah.
So I got this idea from Joseph Campbell. All the organs are in competition for nutrients, and there's all this. You put food into your body, and the liver got to get its cut, the lung, especially a developing body. And I realized, oh, okay, that's it. The poop is a statement of resolution. This is how we solved our inner problem. Our excrement is a statement of resolution. It's not a waste product, which is why when dogs are drawn to another dog's essence, they're picking up his biochemical emotional signature. He gets that other dog. He's emotionally synchronizing with that other dog by smelling, tasting, eating his poop.
Yeah.
He's actually calibrating. Two organisms the same, which would be like women in the same barracks, pheromones, synchronizing their system.
Yeah.
Interestingly, around the lunar cycle.
That used to be like a grade school comic reference to, shit-eating dog,
Which is why they're pariahs in certain societies, and
Right.
yet they're the ultimate network. The only animal on earth that eats poop is the dog.
Oh, really?
I don't. The cat. I've never seen any other animal eat poop.
Yeah.
I mean, except for like rabbits, say cockroaches.
They
Yeah, they have two,
Yeah, they're-
but they have a special.
And what kind of poop do dogs like more than any other poop?
Yeah,
Horse.
Process.
More than any other poop
Cow?
with, huh?
Horse.
Other dog.
More than that.
Dog, yeah.
More than that.
Human?
Human poop.
I was gonna say that, but I don't know why.
That's why people, like, if you walk your dog in the city with the homeless, the owners go, oh, I can't go over there, forget it, my dog going nuts. Or you got the baby's diaper, the dog drags it out of the trash.
right,
So that connection between human and dog,
yeah,
they're picking up our essence.
right.
A fun phrase for me in relationship to an issue at a city council meeting,
Sure.
and I had a dog that was eating a feral cat, I just wanted to say, but I bit my tongue. I said, the problem with you, Bill, is you got a coprophagous cur. And I just loved the way that sounded, but I
Ooh,
couldn't.
that hurts.
Yeah, so here we have all these essences that relieve us, relax us, relieve the pressure, all the predatory aspects in our lives, the reflection, the screens, the sharpness, the jaggedness, and oh man, dig around your ear and oh, there's some earwax, right? Or
Popping a zit.
popping a zit, right?
Just
So
kidding.
now figure out what that was all about.
Yeah.
It makes sense now.
Yeah.
It's like, oh,
There's
yay.
also like then there's like, so even like
Why, but yeah.
getting into the world of sex, like there's some like bizarre sex around food, around poop, and it's like, what is going on? Well, emotional values, right? Emotional topographies, right? So, I mean, it's, the animal stuff is gunky and funky, and it's all the stuff that in our society we hide and and yet the more we push it down, the more it like controls us from behind the scenes, right?
Well, it's all network information.
Yeah.
Run that by me, meaning, information.
Pardon?
It went over my head, network information.
Yeah, it's how you emotionally synchronize. The organism emotionally synchronizes through that biochemical level. And notice the interplay now that they're drawing about the immune system and the mind and the gut, the bacteria.
Yeah.
It's all starting. It's not just this trickle down central nervous system thing.
Yeah.
That the immune, and then there's a wonderful TED talk by some woman scientist who talks about what are you? 100 times more bacterial DNA in our system than our own DNA. And the bacterium are in communication with all the other bacterium in the environment.
Yeah.
So where does our humanity begin and end? You know, we're starting to see that we're,
I kind of a sense of that.
yeah, we're networked in.
Yeah, we're a colony of bacteria more than we are.
Yeah.
Yeah, farts.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's, so,
We gotta destroy this tearaway before house cleaning gets here.
so there's one, before we move on, there's one, so the idea here is to see the empty boat. Okay, so culturation tells us to be gross and disgusting, okay, that's fine, but also have the capacity to see the empty boat, to understand why your children are doing that, why other people are doing that, what value it has for them, right? The relief of pressure, it's absorbent, right? And there's, even in the world of tracking, there's this hilarious thing where there's a Facebook group that guards started, the tracking club. So our search and rescue mentor, Fernando Moreira, he's like old Portuguese, army trained guy, learned from African trackers. And he sees these posts that trackers are making, and trackers are always looking at animal poop. Always, right? And in the beginning as a tracker, you're a little like, ooh, that's a little gross, but then quickly you get into it, and you're like, whatever, you stop noticing. But he'll have colleagues in the world of the military and law enforcement who he'll like invite onto this group, and they're like, Fernando, they're like all poop experts, all they do is poop, right? They're looking at poop, they're da-da-da, and their first reaction is, hey, look, I'm a poop tracker, oh, look. And they'll have like milk duds out, or like, whatever, Tootsie Rolls, and they'll be like, ooh, poop, so it must be a coyote, and they're always eating it. They're like, they get this candy or this facsimile of poop, and their first joke is to eat the poop, right?
The big taboo.
Right? And which is the animal urge. Like I mean, in this sense, there's like that thing that knocks you off balance, but is actually fascinating and pulls you in. It's like satisfying. So I watch these guys, and I'm like, you're actually loving that. But oh yeah, poop experts.
Could I add something too, is,
Yeah.
we get most of our thoughts, we get our thoughts from our intellect, and it's form-centric. And this is essence stuff, which is shocking to the intellect. Because the intellect likes to break things down and present it to your mind in its narrative stuff. So this stuff seems disgusting to us because it's unformed, and we're form-centric. So this is hard for us to take in naked like this. So a dog is not disgusted by this stuff because he's energy-centric, he's essence.
Form-centric, what do you mean by that?
Well, like, if you see a dog's poop that's formed, it's not disgusting. You see unformed poop, it's like, ugh.
Yeah.
It's
So think
disgusting.
silhouettes, think firm shapes that you can grasp with your mind versus squishy things.
That
things
just
with
shows you the
defined
filter
borders.
our
Yeah.
intellect has put on us.
Yeah.
And this is a window
Form-centric.
to get out of that filter. Our filter is form centricity.
Yeah.
The animal mind isn't like that.
As a mother, I know that when my children pooped, vomited, bled, sneezed, anything on me, it was not, I did not, it's not like, oh, it
Yeah,
was
the
like,
mother's
oh,
like that. The dad, not so much.
yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
Yeah, no, the mother likes that because it's an expression of the baby's energy, and we're getting to resolution. She just got rid of it. So we're getting,
It's
the
so
baby's
good.
getting whole. That's what you're just so consumed with, the baby's getting whole.
Yeah.
Network resolution as opposed to, I can't handle that unformed essence. For you, because your attunement with the baby is so animal, you are essence centric as opposed to the dad would be more
Truly.
form centric.
Yeah.
Right.
One thing about that though is, so my daughter will have, I never thought I would do this, but my daughter will be eating food, she never finishes her dinner or whatever, and I look over there and I'm like, I might even use her same spoon.
Yeah.
What's wrong with me, right? But it's just like, I want to eat it. It's prayful, like something prayful has touched it. It's kind of like the carrion here. It's this object in common with, so that map's always running, yeah.
So I had read, earlier when you told the Thomas Merton thing in the
Yeah.
beginning, I wrote down, does the empty boat attract because it's empty? And so out of this conversation, what I'm getting is an empty boat has the potential to absorb something of me. there's a person in it, it's no longer empty.
Predator, right?
It's a,
Yeah.
yeah, and it shifts.
Yeah.
It's full.
And they reflect
Full
you.
boat, it's
See,
not.
it reflects you back to you, if there's a
Yeah.
person in there.
Right.
No person, then, as you were saying, you're taking it neutral, a bump, a
Right.
boat bump, let me just deal with it in the
The
now.
person makes it a projection.
Yes,
Right.
yes, it makes, yes. and it-
Isn't that contextual though?
Well, the person reflects you back to you. You
Right.
project into the person and it bounces right back to you.
Right.
So like with my kids real little, I don't like to dance, but I could jump around, dance with them, turn the music on, because there's no boundary between it. But as they got a personhood, it got much more, they reflected me back to me.
Yeah, think about what, that experience I'm having looking at the homeless person sleeping. I'm looking at them, I'm like almost in them. I'm almost there on the sidewalk, I'm almost experiencing it. They turn around and look at me, oh, I feel my body, I'm clenched, oh, sorry, dude, I didn't mean to, that's invasion of pride. So I'm back into me. They've reflected me back into me. Is that?
Yes.
So it's like you almost get kicked out of their form.
Then you might feel ashamed, I violated their space, and
Yeah.
your whole narrative
Yeah.
take
Now
over.
I'm all off balance.
Now
and
your
yeah.
physical memory, your
Yeah.
whole story will
Yeah.
kick in, and now you gotta.
Yeah, but the earwax, the booger, the soft sweater. For my birthday, I got a fox skin. Right, all these things just absorb, and you can look at them, and they don't reflect. They don't send me back into myself. They allow me, in some ways, to expand myself. Right,
Yes.
to ease out, and I'm bigger.
We gotta emphasize the word self, sense
Yeah.
of self. That's
Yeah.
exactly right.
Okay, so now I'd like to move. So, predator and preyful are like there, but you notice that there's this bouncing around because where are you at with this projection and absorption, right? What can you handle? So, why don't we take a short break? How about 10 minutes? And so our next topic is going to be about the big brain and the second brain.
Or we could talk about sense of self and emotional projection.
Okay.
That might make sense. What do you think, Leah? Is that graphed in pretty good with?
Yeah, we'll look at it.
Well, if we can stick with the brain stuff, I've got some
Okay, I'll do
exercises
the
around
pipe,
that.
should I do the pipe battery thing? Is that what you mean by that?
Well, let's chat about it over break.
Okay.
Are there any, so I want to mention there's during the break, some great questions that came up. One was, what about sounds? Can sounds have preyful or predatory aspects? And of course they can. And so Kevin mentioned this great thing about compressive sound that's stacked up on itself, that's coming towards you, right? The waves are squished. That's predatory, right? And with the longer wavelength sound, that's preyful, right? So what is absorbing again? What is projecting, right? Just keep thinking of that. In fact, even the cry of the red-tailed hawk, keer, right, is a shock to birds. Like keer, it's like rattles their nervous system, and then now they're outed. Maybe if they're behind a bush or hiding, and then it's like and you can see the movement, right? So there's these qualities everything's mapped out with these emotional values.
You could break it down to like wave music.
Yeah.
It's all about the kind of the build up, the stack, and
Yeah.
it kind of compresses you, and then there's that
Yeah.
drop, which
Yeah.
is the release.
Yeah,
Right.
right,
The weightness.
Yeah, no, the music depends on the animal mind.
Right?
Yes.
Oh yeah, totally.
right.
That's a good point.
Yeah, that's a whole awesome subject right there.
That is.
Okay, so what we want to do is get us moving in this right before lunch. But in order for you to understand why I'm having you move, we need one last piece of the model, which fits into the predator and preyful aspect. So here we go. We got we've got the human body, right? Now, who is aware that we have a second brain? Who has heard of this concept of the second brain? Okay, would someone be willing to talk about it, explain it a little bit? Sterling, yeah?
So there's neurons in your gut, and there's almost as many as there are in your brain, and it has similar processing power, and also your heart too has a ton of neurons too. So that's like the 1, 2, 3 of like your head, your gut, and your heart, which is why we say like, oh, I had a gut feeling, or like, oh, I feel it in my heart, like you do.
Yeah, there's a great book on this subject called The Second Brain. It's also known as the enteric nervous system, the gut nervous system, right? The gut brain, right? So here we've got this nervous system, right? Down in here, right? And then we have this nervous system up here, and there's has anybody heard of what connects these two systems? Yeah, the vagus nerve, right? So there's this massive nerve that communicates between these two parts of our bodies. So, though on the outside we have these, so if someone's looking at us, you know, they're gonna see these predatory and preyful values, right? And that's the outside of us. And then our inner experience and how we store and handle energy has to do with these inner systems, okay? So when we've got a body that is essentially a battery for stress. Stress is nature's memory, right? Mm-hmm. So it's how information is stored, right? So this is good. You know, stress is energy for work. It's good stuff. We're acculturated to bad practices and maybe poorly adaptive might be a better expression around how to handle it, where it goes, you know, how to deal with it, when you want it, when you don't want it. But essentially, this is what makes life possible: is this capacity to store stress, right? Makes information storing possible. So as we get more charge, the amount of resistance that we naturally project goes up. Okay, so as that resistance goes up, our body deforms to accommodate it, right? This is like a one-to-one expression. You can't avoid it. So if your resistance is like way up here, you're walking around like this, and you're like, you know, you're up, your shoulders are up, your neck is tight, your chin is jutting out, right? As this resistance goes down, right, as the amount of charge, right, energy projection is resistance to the outer world, right? So this resistance value is again like an outer interpretation of where we're at, right? So this will increase the amount of energy we project and make us more predatory, right? So as it goes down, we become more curved, we become softer, right? We ground in our feet more. So you get down here, and this is, hey, I got all day, no problem. People who are really good at working with horses, with animals, like, that didn't offend me. You know, no worries, right? Slow, soft voices, right? Up here, it's like short, staccato response. Yeah, but that's not what I said. Blah, blah, blah. You know, like right away, sudden breaks in the continuum, interruptions, right? Here, you're like listening, waiting for someone to finish. Are you sure you're done? Okay, well, you know, right? So you're having like two different brains are operating, and then the slider that goes between them, right? So this gut mind, this gut brain, and you can also talk when the big brain is in charge. We call it you're in balance, right? Balance is your primary concern, you could say, maintaining, grabbing, holding on to balance. When the gut mind is in charge, hunger is determine everything, and not satiation, right? So wolfing things down, like stuffing yourself, is not a hunger activity. Hunger itself can be savored, right? Tastes are savored. You got all day. You're savoring every sip, savoring every forkful, like smelling the flowers. This is what the gut mind loves is rich, varied input. It wants to ingest, right? It doesn't necessarily want to be sated at all. That's not what it's about. It's savoring experience, okay? So because of that, it is about going by feel. Savor, ingest,
In the moment.
Input, yeah, in the moment. Immediate moment. Immediate moment, right? This is the deep, the capacity, we're talking about brains. The capacity for intelligent action in this place is the deep intelligence of dancers, of massage therapists, of martial artists, of sculptors, right? Of gardeners, you know, people, of animal workers, right? Yeah.
So, I'm struggling a little bit with the balance.
Uh-huh.
So that doesn't mean, let me see if my interpretation is correct. What that means is kind of the quest for balance.
The struggle for
Not
balance.
the being in balance.
Yeah, yeah.
The struggle for balance.
So this
the-
is, yeah.
Because when I hear balance, I automatically think, oh, well, everything is in balance, and I don't think that's what you were meaning.
So here's the thing about, so
Yeah.
for, this happens all the time.
Right.
This is, I get this a lot. So our culture, when we hear balance, we all go, oh, right? But if you're thinking about balance, you're off balance.
Right, okay, good.
That's the
Okay, good.
problem, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
all this constant, yeah, that,
Yeah.
it's that, all this constant
Yeah.
thinking and obsessing about
All
balance,
fear comes from balance.
right?
Yeah, or being, fear of being not in balance.
I mean, there's,
Yeah, or all fear is a function of
yeah,
Yeah.
balance concern. So balance creates
Balance
stasis.
concern. Yeah,
This worked once, let me do it now. Let me keep doing it. It's no longer in the moment.
okay.
It worked once, it's a familiar pattern, keep things the same. So the brain in the gut loves input, change.
Yeah.
The brain in the head loves stasis.
yeah.
Nothing changed.
So you think, remember that dog that was rolling downhill? Was that dog concerned about balance? Was that dog perfectly, was that dog perfectly in balance? Right? The dog holding on to the stick and, was that dog worried about balance?
No fear of flying.
But it was perfectly in balance. So what's funny is as soon as, it's like the Greek thing, as soon as change comes up as a concept, that means the premise is stasis. Oh, look, a change happened. Well, be careful of that change, right? It'll happen every once in a while, you know? So the thing, when balance comes up as a thing, that means we're like way off the mark, right? That we're way out of balance. So this is, so when balance is in charge, what you also call sensitive, when you're sensitive, electric, right? So you have magnetism, which has a field effect and is laminar, and that is guts, synchronizing, harmonizing, wave coupling, savoring, ingesting, wanting input. Oh, I'll take, martial arts is like, I had a teacher who was like, when somebody punches you, say, oh, Christmas. Oh, like they're giving you a present, right? So I'm savoring all the input. Anything's good, I'll take any. That's improv, yes and, right? That's all gut. Balance, so we got ingestion, input, stasis.
And you gotta always return to it, it's a rheostat. So if hunger is in charge, it means balance is subordinated to hunger. Now balance inflects the feeling, which is good. So balance isn't bad, but if balance is paramount, it collapses a feeling, and that can lead to dysfunction, charge.
Can you clarify when you say balance is electric?
Yeah, so when balance is in charge, we're electrostatic. Your experience is in your head, and you feel pressure in your head. If you want to know what a charged electron feels like, that's the sensations.
Yeah.
And when hunger is in charge, you have a magnetic affinity.
Oh,
Yeah. So short circuits, load overload, zaps, hair standing on it, bristling, I can't stand nails on a chalkboard. Like those are all electric experiences.
Hypermanic.
Right?
it's all these, I'm an electrician by trade.
Oh, cool.
Right.
So, all these analogies to the electrical principle, like positive, you're talking about DC current one way, and then if you have, how would you call it, field, electromagnetic field, well, that's alternating current. So I mean, that's me as thinking
Right.
of electrician.
So the thing to understand is, like, when we say, oh, electric, or we say magnetic,
Right.
or we say positive and negative,
Right.
so what we're saying is that electricity isn't electric in this sense either, right? Literal electricity, you know, light, heat, right? It's a flow of electrons, right? It's things, but strip all that away, and these behaviors that aren't specific,
Right.
right? So like preyful items all have these commonalities, right? So that is flow system. Everything that isn't absolutely specific to electricity is the flow system that we have in common,
Right.
right? So sudden, jagged, right? So in a certain sense, I mean, I would say electricity isn't necessarily literally electric either.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense? Like,
Well, I mean,
we're talking
our
about,
system is electric, you know.
Pardon?
Yeah.
Electric conductivity and electric principles operate in that.
I think of it as,
I'm
I'm sorry. I think of it as high-pitched and low-pitched for me. I know that I'm in my head when my voice is very high-pitched.
yeah,
And when my voice is very low-pitched, I'm very relaxed usually.
That's your
And
bagel tone.
what's that?
Bagel tone.
Ah, okay.
yeah, so the point is that, I mean, and I really want you guys to get to grasp this and tell me if I'm flubbing it, but the idea is, like, you know, there's all these scientific phenomenon, right? And we'll talk about them a lot. But the point is that they are not, these patterns appear at different levels of scales in different domains, different relationships. So what we're doing is we're saying, just because iron filings organize around a magnet does not mean that the magnet is the only place where that happens.
Right.
That happens to a magnet because that also happens to wolves organized around a moose, to us organized around a project or a goal. Like, the field effect is something that you could even say, oh, the magnet is acting like people, you know, or a pack of wolves,
Yeah, I
right?
see.
Right. So the
Interesting use.
yes. So any phenomenon. So what that leads us to, and what this model has benefited greatly from, is you can look at any pattern in nature, which is what science is talking about, and you can go, how does that manifest in the emotional landscape? How is that pattern present? And you'll find it. And I think that's like Kevin's story is of finding that over and over. And the more you look for these, you know, like the human body is not a copper wire, and yet similar patterns, right? And in fact, you know, like
It's a virtual copper wire.
yeah, you know, I mean,
We conduct electricity really well, though. Gotta be
yeah, and you
careful.
could say the copper wire is a virtual human body. They're both shared, their patterns are shared, and the physical specifics come out of that.
Yeah, that's where my critics get after me, because, you know, you put the machine up there, you're not gonna find electromagnetism other than, you know, like, as someone mentioned, the heart has a magnetic field, the
Yeah.
brain, et cetera, but, what I've discovered was we act as if we're
Yeah.
electromagnetically
I
charged.
see that, it's just interesting to
virtual.
me
Yeah.
that you're using that to illustrate
Yes.
principles.
Yes,
And then I just see
yes,
that not only illustrating principles of that, but I see that it's actually in the way from my experience with the electrical trade, that it actually, there's a certain truth to your using that as a
yeah,
principle to illustrate.
right. It's very cool.
See,
It's,
I'm just saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I do mean it literally,
yeah,
not metaphorically.
yeah.
Okay, well, then
It's a
I-
virtual, because if the natural world works according to electromagnetism. The first cell crystals replicated according to the principles of electromagnetism in deep ocean vents. So why wouldn't the animal mind work according
see,
to
that's
principles of
what I'm
electromagnetism?
seeing is,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. I hope
Yeah.
I hope that become clear.
Yeah.
well, I don't know about clear, but it's helpful. Yeah.
Okay, so we've got this rheostat where this hunger takes over, balance is subsumed, balance takes over, and hunger is subsumed. When you're in this place of balance, sharp, sudden behaviors, getting rid of energy, you know, unloading from the stress. Input is what is the order of the day when you're in the gut mind. Output, no more. no more, can come in, right? So this is why when you get political arguments, you get work arguments, you're like, but I have this wonderful explanation for why we should do this. And the person is saying, will you get out of my face? I cannot hear another word, right? No more input, because they're already up here. How would you get, so here we start going, and how would you get them down where they could take more input? What are prayerful things that you could do in that moment to absorb their energy, right? So then they can unload, and then now you can give them energy, because now they can absorb, right? You see the back and forth. So listening, waiting for your chance to speak, you're starting to rise up to here, right? I mean, at least you're not interrupting, but you know, probably not in accord, probably not savoring the moment, probably not really receiving input and really understand how to wave couple with what they're saying and their experience. You know, often what the recommendation is, paraphrase what the other person is saying or demonstrate that you've heard it. That's absorption, you know. That's absorption, right? There's that old thing of, you know, I've got a problem. I just want to tell you what it is and vent. I don't want you to fix it. I'm full of charge. I tell you what my problem is. Rather than demonstrating that you've heard me, you go, here's how you fix it. And I explode. I'm like, right? Because it's electricity back and forth, right? It's charge, right? So what other behaviors? Well, I mean, you know, we have the range of projection behaviors: suddenness, jaggedness.
Yeah, basically output is a good one.
Yeah. Yelling, red in the face, you know, all that resistance. What does a wire do when it's got resistance? It turns hot red, right? Right. That's what's going on. If when you go into balance, you feel red in your face. You feel pressure in your face, and you also like, you know, you're up there. Our grip is our bite, you know. So we'll be like, right, right. Energy projection, right. So your touch becomes hard. I mean, imagine doing massage and being like, oh my God, I'm so stressed. Is that good? Right? No, you're putting more charge into them, right?
I actually had someone who came to my table that thought that was the best massage he'd ever gotten. You never know.
Well, there's like emotional capacity and wanting to.
They really wanted to be
right.
briefed on. So.
Well, so there, you see right there, like there flips back and forth according to where you're at.
Normally that would not be good, but.
Right. Feel like violation, like penetration, like transgressive, right? But then they were like, no, input. I want to ingest. I want to get beat up. So this is a thing. I box, right? It's a surprise to some people to hear me say it's fun to get hit in the head, right? But there has been times when I've been hit in the head, like kind of sucker punched by a buddy, and I'm like, wait a minute, you know, we didn't ring the bell, and then now I'm like getting pissed, right? So you know, you have this kind of floating up, and when I'm ready, when it's smooth, when it's in accord with me, you know, I'm like, okay, you know, we have our rituals, they're prayerful, they, you know, protect, right, boundaries. So this is essentially the dance that goes with Predatory and Prey. So before we start doing we're gonna test this out in our bodies. We're gonna grab a buddy of about the same size, and we're going to test our experience of how this works. Okay. Is there anything I missed that really needs to be part of this picture?
Depends what the exercise is. What are we going to do?
Okay. So just go ahead and feed in
what specifically is the exercise you have in mind?
Okay, so we're going to grab a buddy of about the same size and strength. You know, it's fine. One person is the tester. We'll swap roles. But one person is the tester, one person is the testee. Now the first thing is, what we'll notice is that when your attention's up in the head and your sense of self is up there, then you're in balanced mind. Natural one-to-one. So we're going to demonstrate that. whether or not that's true, to the extent that's true for you, where you're at. We're gonna put our attention, focus in our belly. The tester's gonna push on our balance, push on us, and they're gonna give us feedback as to how this affects our balance, right? And we're gonna do a couple other similar exercises with thinking different things, feeling different things, and test this map of predatory input, preyful experiences, how that affects our balance. So that's the exercise. Is there anything?
No, I think I might be able to piggyback on that after the exercise.
Okay, perfect, okay. All right, so please find a buddy. And let's see, I'll need.
I should pick on you.
We're about the same thing, yeah, that works.
No, let's leave it there. Hey Garth, could I have your help?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's my buddy book.
Okay, yeah, that's perfect.
Does anyone need a buddy when you're on my side?
An example.
I'm about to do that. Okay, so that was a sum up, but I haven't actually given you the instructions yet. So are we ready? Everybody ready? Okay. Is anybody missing a partner? Everybody's got a partner. Okay.
If you two are partners, then I think we're okay.
Okay. We'll be
Oh, okay, all right, yeah,
I mean,
sure.
okay.
Otherwise, yes, then.
Okay.
So stand up, and one of you needs to be the tester first. You're going to switch roles. So pick a tester. Okay.
I like these.
So your job as tester, your only job is to provide feedback. Okay? Garth, you're gonna stand over here. Okay. So what you're going to do as tester is you're going to stand to the side and slightly out of the field of vision of the person for reasons that you could probably figure out, right? We're going to minimize the predatory aspect of this experience, right? We're going to get out of their vision. I'm not going to stare at them. I'm going to look down. I'm going to put my hand on their upper chest, hand parallel, fingers parallel, right? So I'm not, right? So we're minimizing predatory, and we're going to provide feedback. We're going to provide feedback, okay? Now we're going to just give it a dry run and see how everybody goes. So the first thing I want you to do is ask your testee to put their mind, just feel their belly, feel their gut, okay?
Is it the left side, the hard side? Or
It doesn't really matter, or may not matter. I don't know, Brant may know if it matters. We'll see if it matters. Okay,
All right, feel your gut.
so as tester, you've told your partner to be in their gut. You push on them until you feel their balance just slightly destabilize, right? Just slightly destabilize, okay? So now ask them to put their attention in their head, okay? Now you're gonna push on them, right? Okay. Right, so let's switch partners, switch sides.
All right,
Got it?
Mhm.
okay, my gut.
Wow.
In your head?
Okay, nice. All right, so now,
I do it with the kids.
yeah. So now what I want you to
Help
do,
them resolve
so
pressure.
switch
stress.
again. This time, don't tell the tester which one we're doing. So we have to keep this honest. So we have some tricks. So to do some blind testing here, because what we don't really want to just, have random experiences, but we want to really understand if what we think is happening is happening. So this is one way of doing it. Just don't tell the tester which one you've chosen. Do the same thing. Yeah, so the tester's gonna test, tester doesn't know whether you're in your gut or your head. And so you're gonna feel that again. So maybe they were pushing too hard, maybe they, you know, who knows, right? So double blind, right? Or at least single blind.
Let me just figure out.
Okay, I'm just gonna watch, is that okay?
Sure.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, all right.
Oh, gut? Yes.
Let me try you.
Okay.
That was head.
Stabilize whatever.
Okay, now it's obvious.
Felt like that.
Yeah, I was, I'm gonna go for gut, and then I was like, gut or head, and then you pushed. So I was.
A lot of work gratitude.
Okay, and switch when you've done that, and so the other person can experience it.
Okay, let's switch.
Stay up.
All right, let me know when you're ready.
Okay. When, yeah. Yes, well. Yeah, okay. So, okay, is everybody ready for the next one? Everybody ready?
Oh, yeah, I think that
Raise your hand if you're ready. Raise your hand if you're ready. Raise your hand if you're ready. Okay. So Brandt has suggested a cool variation. The testee is going to is not going to choose one or the other, right? But simply going to put their hands up here, their elbows out, and grip the floor with their toes.
As if you're at risk of being thrown off the planet.
Yeah, you're trying to hold on, right, with your toes. And tester test, and then switch once you've tested. Okay, go for it.
Is that switching the head to gut in the same position?
You're not choosing where to put your attention. You're just holding, and then holding on with your toes. You've got, yeah. Okay. Okay. I'm not going to do any more testing.
All right, thanks.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. And raise your hand when you're finished.
It's like you got it all lined up.
Okay. Raise your hand when you're finished. All right, excellent. Okay, now I want you to look at something prayful. Now, don't think about it, but what racks your attention, what pulls you in, what makes you feel good, what, could be a warm coat, could be looking at the food, tea, or, whatever. Look for something prayful, right? And test or test, then swap, right? You can also think about something prayful, your cat, a loved one, remember all the qualities around it, your favorite lake, whatever, okay? Prayful, and then switch, and then do it again. Okay?
So just stand.
Regular position.
Okay, all right.
Grabbing the feet again?
No grabbing, yeah. Yeah.
Soft rug. Now we switch, or, okay, all right.
Raise your hand when you're finished. Okay. Okay. So raise your hand if you're done. Okay. So is anybody noticed there's an effect called magnetic hand that we want to watch out for. So if you feel your partner push as the testee, you feel your tester test you, and you feel yourself rise to meet the hand, we've got a magnetic hand effect and we can work with that, right? There's a way to circumvent that, but I just need to know if it's happening. Is anybody experiencing that? Yeah, you are? Okay.
When I was aware of it, so I was.
So if that happens, what I want your tester, if you feel that, tell your tester, and then they'll test again, but also test from the back, right? So if you're meeting it with resistance, you'll get a test from the back, and it'll be like really clear, right? So, and that'll prevent the thing. We good? Okay. So next test, I want you to do attention in the center of the earth. Like put your attention at the center of the earth, right? Lots of energy absorption there. And test, and then swap, and then raise your hands when you're both done.
Who's putting their attention?
The testee. So the tester is always just testing. The testee is putting their attention. Okay. We done? Raise your hand when you're done, so I can tell. Okay, so test, what I want you to do is test feeling like you're giving something, or remember a time when you gave something to someone, right? You're giving. Test with giving, okay? And then switch, and then raise your hands when you're done, so we can.
I don't care, we can switch. You wanna try it? Go ahead.
It's kind of cool.
Oh, remember something. I'll be the testee. Go ahead.
You're giving a gift, giving something, giving food. Raise your hands when you're done. Nice. Okay, is everybody ready? So now test, you want to get something. You want to get a job, you want to get something you need from your partner, you want to get something. There's something you wish you had, you want to get it. Test with that feeling and your tension there.
All right. Now we're supposed to just have one tester testing at a time.
No. Yeah, if you're switching, you're great. Yeah, please switch. Yeah.
Whoa, what's gonna happen?
Yeah, that's too much.
So raise your hands when you're done.
Yeah.
Okay. Raise your hands when you're done. So I'm hoping that you're giving feedback with your partner. You're like, oh, that was the tester is going to say, that was really hard to push on you. Like that's all happening. Okay. So next test. What I want you to do is, this is really annoying. I'm sorry, but look at the smiley face. Look at the smiley face and test, and then swap. And raise your hands when you're done.
Yeah, you can do me first.
Can everybody see the smiley face?
Okay, I can see it.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
Yeah, I feel it.
Okay, balance.
Yeah, okay.
Oh no, what's gonna happen?
Raise your hands when you're done.
I don't feel very strong enough.
Really?
I don't know.
Raise your hands when you're done. Okay. Frowny face. Okay. Test, swap, raise your hands.
All right.
Okay, frowny face.
I feel like I don't like it. I don't know, that was weird. I wasn't even. Huh, you try it.
Sorry.
Yeah. Well,
Raise your hands when you're done. Pick, wait.
Yeah,
Get away from it.
So now pick something from what we've done so far. Don't tell your tester, and have them test that, and then swap, and then another person do that, okay? Just as a check-in to see if everything is running smoothly.
okay.
We've had frowny faces, smiley faces, prayerful things, giving, getting. Oh,
When you said,
okay. You ready? Okay, so now think of something delicious. Test and swap. Okay? Something your favorite food, something you had this morning, something what's really good. Maybe a drink, something delicious.
Your turn?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go.
Okay, okay, all right. Okay. Chocolate. What could be bad about it?
Raise your hands. Okay, so now think of something disgusting. Keep in mind, right, that the prayful items that were animal prayful but may have disgusted you, those are fine. Whatever disgusts you, you know, you've earned it. So feel free to be disgusted. So test, swap, raise your hands.
Okay. Yeah. Go.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're okay. Okay.
Right.
Gross tissue.
Oh.
I do a lot of that.
Yeah.
When it goes through the tissue and you feel it in your fingers, it's about the worst.
Raise your hands when you're done. Okay, this one is like a, I don't know, a fun one. Think of their most despised politician. And think of the last image of them speaking and expounding on whatever opinion they had. And test and swap.
All right, you go.
Okay. Really?
We did that last.
Oh, nice.
That's disgusting.
Yeah, excellent.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah. I decided to go for the
Okay.
So when you're done, you can take your seats.
Thank you. Paid my part.
Let's give ourselves a hand for going through that. Yay. All right. So the question is, what happened? What did you notice? What patterns did you notice?
That whole thought about bending but not breaking, swaying, you know, with the gut and the
Yeah.
good food, and then I think she said, you know, when it was go get something, and it was like a wall, she said, right here, you know, just, "Bleh,
Yeah,
Right.
I'm gonna get it.
yeah,
Don't get in my way.
huh, interesting, interesting. Yeah,
It was interesting for us because for specific ones, a smiley face and the food, we had the opposite reaction. Yeah, she was so strong and resistant for the smiley. I loosened it up, and also for the food, for the good food, I was relaxed and I was moving, but she was like strong and resistant. So I think it was very interesting. As we talked about it, how we felt.
Yeah.
Different reactions.
So the question to be thinking about is under what conditions did you feel less stable? So there's bending like a willow, which is perfectly valid, and that's a really interesting observation. We also want to know, though, is like so there's rigid, and if you're rigid, you're going to be more off balance, right? So that's a thing, right?
Yeah.
So if you're swaying and you're moving or bending naturally, right, energy's going to slide off you, and you're going to go through it like a fish nosing through water, right? So think also in those terms. Look for those patterns, but all are good.
What terms?
Under what conditions did the tester more easily knock you off balance?
Right.
Or make you recognize that you were easily knocked off balance? And under what conditions did you feel like you almost didn't notice the tester was there?
Well, it's kind of curious because my, let's just say, principle, like balance and flexibility has been, my modus operandi.
Yeah.
I mean, and so, it's kind of an awkward test because because you're used to, wanting to be in balance with whatever's going on, so.
Well, so the test wasn't about your ability to
Right,
fall into accord with whatever input I gave you. The test was to truly replicate the feeling of disgust, not go, oh, I can turn that disgust into honey, right? So the purpose of the biofeedback is to let you know, like you were talking about flexible,
Right.
when I'm not flexible, what is that doing to my body? Like on those times when I've just had the worst day and I'm just like not at my top form, how am I responding in an embodied fashion?
yeah,
That's the purpose of the test.
yeah.
Certainly, if you're a dancer, if you're a martial artist, if you're a massage therapist,
Yeah.
you have tools to absorb and redirect, and
Right.
that's not the purpose of the test. The test is actually almost like in an improv sense, like I'm just gonna be that person who's feeling disgust. When I'm gonna use my own cues and own memory of that. What does that do to my body, right? I'm gonna reproduce it as accurately as possible.
That's what I struggled to do, I think, as I was intellectualizing basically and saying, how should I be
Uh-huh.
if I am this? How should I,
Yeah, that's
react?
what it was.
Oh, well, so what happened when you did that?
I don't know, I think, oftentimes I was in my head, so I was a little less stable.
There we go.
And, yeah,
I mean, that's the whole thing of, oh, good food, God, how should I feel that, like that's,
Yeah.
right, that's gonna be the result.
Yeah.
So the goal of this is to, with a partner, you can like sync up and tune, you can work this further. If you have any friends or family who get a kick out of this, this is known in many fields, under many terms, muscle testing, kinesiology, but there is a thing that happens. Where current is moving smoothly through your body, emotion is smooth, or when it's brittle, you're jagged, your angles, and you're not moving in accord, right? And what we want to start noticing is the situations where that causes, where we are in our bodies, how we get deformed, right? Like we want to start going from there. We want to get out of our heads and start experiencing this immediate moment theory as an immediate moment phenomenon, right? As a thing that is deforming groups, is organizing them into fields, and you can start feeling where things are. You can process, you can remember a time. We do a lot of like pulling memories of situations. You can go, okay, can I nose through that situation and feel a different way to do that, you know? I mean, you can work with it all kinds of ways. And so anyway, any other anything you noticed, Kevin, or
No,
patterns? Or?
I got the biggest capacity to be grounded when I was thinking of giving, which I think was cool.
Yeah, that one just blows me away, you know. I find that super interesting.
I found it interesting when we did the test with the hey, but the politician you don't like.
Yeah.
You yourself destabilize, like this person that you think, you know, you live in a good space, and then there's this person that you project onto, and you're like, oh, this awful person, and it totally, it destabilizes your own environment. You're no longer in your good environment. So I thought it was kind of
It's
interesting
amazing,
side effect.
yeah. Yeah, it reminds me of, I once heard the rules for natural horsemanship. There's 3 rules. Not afraid of you, not gonna hurt you, and I've got all day. And that's the attitude, right? And I mean, to me, like, that's like, whoa, gut mind to the max, right? Like staying in accord, staying laminar, you know, staying connected, right? And it's like, who is losing when you decide to be disgusted by another, you know, or, right? Who is really, you know, caught up in a lead?
Busy going, that awful person, that awful,
Right.
and then your whole
Right.
world just
Right.
self is deteriorating.
You're immediately in your head.
Yeah. So any other things we noticed? Any other things that surprised you?
I was surprised, a lot of people, you know, were pushing hard and looking for a lot of resistance.
Yeah.
We were just doing this lightest of touch, and you could feel, just with almost hardly even touching at all,
Yeah.
you could feel immediately whether I could push hard or not, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
Yeah. Nice. Other patterns? Yeah.
When we did the very first ones with the attention and the gut and the attention, as soon as I put my attention to the top of my head, I already felt like I was gonna fall over. Like I started swaying and feeling off balance.
I'm curious, so there was the gut and then there was the center of the earth. Like what happened on that one?
Oh, I like that one. The center of the earth's molten iron.
Yeah, yeah? Now, how did you feel? Like what?
Well, I just felt grounded, you know.
That's super interesting, huh?
Yeah, it's also magnetic.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Spinning.
Oh, yeah, wow, yeah.
So, I have a question.
Yeah.
How do you explain the opposite reactions to a same activity? Like,
Yeah.
as I told you, exactly for if we do different things, here and I, we had different experience.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you explain that?
There's a couple things that could go on. One is we all have our own physical memory and maps of the world, and your map may just veer, you know, it may not overlap with maybe what might be a common experience, right? Because you had a particular experience in the past, right? So this is something that you would think is going to be playful, might be predatory, you know, vice versa. There's also like mind stuff can get in the way. If you start thinking, oh, how should I react, or what should I feel? Or just the fact of struggling to try and do the exercise right could knock you off balance, right? So being in the moment, being smooth, feeling safe, not feeling an eye on you. I mean, the tester is testing you. Yeah.
And there's another aspect is a systems logic. That if you're special affinity, you'll be equal opposites. So if you put 2 dogs together, treat them exactly the same, as they integrate, they become equal opposites in all things. So if you and Leah get along pretty well, you could easily manifest equal opposites as, and this is my definition of the phenomenon of personality. We develop equal opposite personality, so we fit together well. So it can actually be a symptom of simpatico.
Actually, it happened after the first few
Yeah.
I think we started to sync up and then become.
Become equal opposites, exactly. So if you look at any two dogs live in a household, they always become equal opposites. One's great at the vest, the other one, okay, we gotta like be touchy. One likes grooming, one hates grooming. One bolts through the door, one never leaves the yard. One chases the ball, one chasing the ball, but he doesn't. And that is the system, that's emotion as this membrane that we displace and we sync up in order to integrate. And the phenomenon, the paradox, is individual integrity is a function of network integration. Integrity, integration are the same words, I hope. Thank God Adrian's not here. I wouldn't have got away with that one.
Yeah,
But,
I mean, there's different scales here, and so, I mean, so we've only talked about two brains. There's really a third brain,
yes.
right? So we're starting
Yeah, but
simple. What?
I'm thinking of an exercise you and I might do that
Oh,
might
okay.
demonstrate that. If we had something to throw.
Yeah,
Is there a ball in the room? Or any object?
but we got the roll of tape, we
Yeah,
got
roll tape will
a
work.
box of Kleenex.
Okay. Now interestingly, oh yeah.
Ooh, soft.
It'd
And,
be even better if it's hard and if there's a little more skin in the game, but I don't want to unravel it.
No, you're fine, it's okay,
Uh,
I'm a professional.
We're not. So it's interesting in trauma research, I've come to learn, there's a technique called pendulating, where they get you in your brain thinking about your problem, and then they get you to think about, like you were saying,
Yeah.
what happened the time you went with the kids? How was that? Oh, yeah. And they go back and forth, pendulate from one to the other. And apparently that's very therapeutic, and I'd like hopefully to demonstrate why that may be, and how I believe we should relate to a dog based on that too.
and each other.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, so this,
All right, so
yeah,
is this gonna come apart? It's tight, okay. I'll go over here
uh-huh.
and pitch to you. So in order for me to throw it to you, I gotta project energy, but I gotta root into my gut and project the energy, and when it flies, I'm in my head, and so we'll go back and forth. And my question would be, as we go back and forth, where do you feel the flight of the ball? And how do you know where to get it? Any guesses? What do you think?
I feel like it's in my gut, like I'm projecting. I can kind of feel it in the air.
Yeah. I would say, I feel it in my heart.
Hmm.
That's how I feel.
Oh, yeah,
How my
Yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah, no, it does kind of
See
go
what
up,
I'm saying?
it like, yeah, bubbles up.
Yeah.
And my mouth kind of wants to drop open and,
Yeah.
you know, like, wow, yeah.
How about brain? How about your brain? You think about it and try to predict where it's coming.
Yeah, they found out that that's not what they're doing. They're just trying to keep it in a certain frame of reference. Like they studied outfielders and baseball players and how dogs track frisbees. And it's just keeping it, it's actually called control theory. It's just keeping it in a certain spot in your field of vision. And you move your body to maintain that exact position, and then you catch it. There's no actual computation, so to speak. It's not in the brain like an algorithm or something. It's just maintain a perception. I do, and since you gotta move your body, I do believe that's integrated in the heart. All that moving variability, all that calculus goes on in the heart, which someone mentioned the third brain.
Right.
That's really like the movie Apollo 13. Like their spaceship is broken and like the computations don't work, so they have to manually override it.
Right.
They keep the Earth in the window.
Oh, yes,
and
yes.
They just keep that fixed frame of reference with no computation, just
Right.
with the feel of looking at it. And they're able to get back home.
Yes. Avoid gimbal lock, right.
Yeah.
So when your dog goes into gimbal lock, he's out of his heart. He can't compute that. So I don't know if this was a very effective demonstration, but if you get into play a game of catch,
Yeah.
I would say you would integrate all that in your heart. You start to feel it right there. So my definition of a true feeling is only heart-centered. It's a state of suspension. That's the difference between emotion and feeling. Emotion's attraction, displaceable medium. But once you get a system in motion, you can track all the variables in your heart. And you can test this when you're driving a car. So you're driving your car. Your center of gravity has dropped down into way below your own center. It's left your body. It's in the car now. And you've diffused your mind into the vehicle. And there's all these moving vehicles around you. Now, if you're driving along and all of a sudden there's a trooper in your rearview mirror, what do you first feel?
Tightening in your chest.
Yeah, a collapse of the heart. And then it collapses and up comes that stress that you carry. Why is that stress there? To give you the emergency boost of energy. But up comes all your memories that go with it. Oh my God, he's going to bust me. I must be speeding. You're not speeding. You just happen to be lollygagging in the fast lane. He's got to go somewhere, so he feels he just needs to go by you. But you have all these memories. Or if you fall in public, you get humiliated and you're embarrassed, if not ashamed. But why would we feel that way? Because our heart collapsed. Up comes what I call deep inner stress, which is attached to our center of gravity. And along come all the physical memories with it. And that's why we laugh at people if it's funny. And or we feel ashamed if we fall in public, which is kind of silly to be embarrassed about falling in public. What's the whoop? But it's because of physical memory attached to it, yes.
Well, I've thought about that catching business quite often. I don't watch sports or whatever, but, occasionally, and then I see this, this center field, and the guy, you're not he's not calculating,
No.
he's not doing any kind of, he's just, it's a relationship with, and the same thing with a great quarterback, how in the hell does he know that guy's gonna be there?
Right.
Because basically the guy's moving, and this guy's throwing, so there's something operating that's beyond calculation.
When you go into a total state of suspension, time slows down. The NFL quarterback says, geez, after 2 or 3 years, the game slows down. And I had one experience driving a car. I was trying to, before the internet, cell phones, we're following friends to a rainy, narrow city in Boston. I don't know where I'm going, but the end of our journey was going to be a nice Italian bistro, and I'll never find it on my own, and these guys knew this is where we got to go. And I'm driving through these crowded streets, it's pouring rain, my daughter's in the back seat, my wife's next to me, and I was just tracking these taillights of our friends ahead of us. There were 2 or 3 cars got ahead, they'd gone through the next intersection, I'm tracking them, and I'm pushing. A lady's opening her door on the sidewalk of this narrow street, and a car is coming on another side street, and I knew he's going to run the stop sign. I don't know how I knew, but I knew it. But I didn't want to lose track. I was in a tight state of total suspension. I didn't want to lose track of those taillights. So my whole focus on the taillights, I picked this up, picked that woman coming out, and I just feathered the brakes. So that bumper of that car just almost kissed, but didn't hit him. My daughter, I didn't slam her, I didn't want to slam her, and I took like all these moving variables into account. She didn't go forward, I feathered it just right, I missed the lady opening her door, I didn't shear her door off. I could still see where the guy was. Okay, I make a left at the second left. There's the then I'll get all that good food.
Yeah.
And I was in a state of total suspension on a rare occasion, rooted in my deep gut.
Yeah.
And I knew everything. It was unbelievable. And I wasn't mad. My daughter's, Dad, get on the phone, get on the horn, kill that guy. She was shocked because she was just the paralyzed passenger in the backseat. But I wasn't stressed at that guy. I wasn't mad at that guy. I just was all knowing and a rare moment of total suspension. So I believe when we're in a true feeling, it's a state of suspension. And then balance, it's just inflections. Then it's just inflections. It's like the spike inside the wave of the signal.
Suspension, what do you illustrate that?
Well, when I was throwing the ball, I neglected to mention, I have to project my center of gravity into that ball. And I feel it. Like when you throw a ball for the dog, his center of gravity's in that ball. And he can't resist it. He goes like that. And so when it pendulates back and forth, it averages out. So put yourself on a swing. And you're on a swing and you're kicking, you're going back and forth. This is a great exercise to learn the animal mind. And this surge of acceleration goes to the tippy tip of your toes. On the way back, it goes to the tippy tip of your head. You go back and forth. Where does all that momentum average out? Your center of gravity is surging back and forth. Where does it average out? Right in your heart. If you look at the Leonardo da Vinci wheel, this is the center. And it averages out in the heart, and that's where you hold all the information of a system in motion, all the variables. And after a while, that's why the quarterback can track. That guy, there's some little drama with this guy, and I don't think the safety's coming over. If I look over there, I draw him. Nah, this is unbelievable. In 2.2 seconds, he's doing all that. But he can't do that in the beginning. It's too fast. But after a while, he goes into a state of suspension. And they say the game slows down. It's like they just dice it apart. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's just interesting you call it that, because I just see that it's beyond calculation, beyond, it's just some kind of well.
It's a state of suspension. You listen to music, you enter a state of suspension, and you float with the music. It goes up, it goes down. I believe the drums trigger the battery, the deep layers, loosen it up, get it going. And then the high notes articulate it and get it way up there, and you start floating, you go up and down, and that's what makes it pleasant. All we want to do is get weightless. That's all we're looking for.
Which is
And when
also,
we entrain with others, we get to that state. Leah wrote a beautiful article, Entrain, Don't Train.
Who?
Leah wrote an article.
Oh, Will, okay.
What was it called? Entrain, Don't Train?
Oh, you put me on the spot, I can't remember. Something about dog training is end training,
Not
not
train,
train,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah, so
Don't train your dog, end train him.
that's good title. So when you end train,
Yes,
Okay.
when you become entrained.
and I think, that's what we learned from the exercise Willem had us do, is this feedback loop. Is the problem I have with what I learned with the dog owners is it's static. I speak, you listen, and you perform, and I reward. It's very static. But it should be a dance. It should be this feedback. So I push, I absorb, I push, I absorb. And it's like we're throwing this ball of energy back and forth. After a while, the dog starts to feel weightless. Now we're flying. And I'm integrated with him and trained with him on that state of weightlessness. So I become part of his self. And he can no more bite me or disobey me than he can bite his own foot. He can't do it. Because we enter a state of weightlessness together. It takes two to become weightless. You can't become weightless on your. It's no fun to get on the seesaw by yourself. Take somebody else to get on it. That's how you get to weightlessness. So the network comes first, and all our individual stuff comes later. And I think that's what we're trying to reach for, is try to make that.
Yeah.
How do we achieve weightlessness in all these different contexts of social interactions and business environments,
Yeah.
workspaces, and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, weightlessness is unimpeded flow.
Yeah.
You could also call it flying. It's the running at full gallop. It's the all out. It's
all-
floating. It's the infant in arms being rocked.
Yeah.
It's like perfect contentment, ecstasy. Like that's
Zone,
the
yeah.
zone.
State of weightlessness, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's everything that happens within it is good. So there's no such thing as a bad feeling.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as a bad feeling. There's no such thing as a negative emotion. Fear is not emotion. Jealousy is not a feeling, a true feeling. It's a thought, it's a judgment attached to a true feeling, but it's not a true feeling. So what I learned from the dogs is emotion, positive attraction, feeling, always good. If it doesn't feel good, it's not a true feeling, which really opens the window into parsing apart emotional experience. So everything that's going on in our bodies and minds during emotional experience is not pure emotion or a true feeling. It's an amalgam of pure emotion, true feeling, plus instincts, which are always sensations of collapse that trigger reflexes to cope with falling, species-specific, gene-centered information, but it's not in the moment.
That's actually something we haven't put up on the chart yet. I think we need to do that. With the balance, so what happens when you're in balance mind, right? It's not just that you want stasis.
Yeah, then you have sensations of falling. Change is danger. And rate of change is too much. That's sensory overload.
Yeah.
And then the organism wants to keep energy out, and that's what a growl is. He's not warning, I can't take any more input. He's literally trying to push it out, just like we would be when the car's about to crash. We're trying to push out sensory input. We can't take any more because we're falling already. There's no intention to it. There's no goal. There's no strategy. It's the way the organism works when there's too high rate of change. So growling is not, I'm warning you, leave me alone. It's, I'm about to collapse. I got to dump energy as fast as I can. It's like a plane dumping fuel because they got to make an emergency landing. Get energy off the system. We can't handle any more energy. It's too much load. And it changes your whole view of why dogs do what they do, why animals do what they do, why we do what we do. The dog no more wants to hurt when he bites than we're trying to bite when we're trying to hurt when we grab the wheel. Race car drivers do not grab the wheel when all heck is breaking loose. They stay in flow. They're loosey-goosey. They may actually give it gas because they know it puts weight. They got a feel for the car. Oh yeah, there's no weight in the hind end. Let me put some weight in the hind end. Now I got out of that. But we are like civilian drivers. When we collapse, we act like the overloaded dog. And we grab the wheel that we're biting. All the dog's trying to do is hang on. You're causing too much stimulation. Stop, I can't take it. That's all he's trying to do is stop the input when he bites. And then he feels relief. So that worked. Okay, good, I feel better. What happened to you? What's your problem? They have no idea. I had a client, right after the Monk's book came out in the 70s, this college kid read the book.
That's the Monks of New Ski.
Yeah, and they're into pinning, alpha rolling, and this kid started coming home in college, and he started pinning his Rottweiler down. It's a nice young male Rott. He started pinning him down and doing all that. And then one night he comes home drinking with his buddies, and he steps over the dog in this passageway in the house where the dog slept, and bam, the dog came up and bit him bad in the arm and ripped him up. Somehow he pushes the dog away, and he's goes to the bathroom to stop the bleed, and the dog comes in, and he's all like, he thought the dog was contrite and apologizing. And I said, no, the dog is no energy. He's trying to load back up in him, and he's like, what the heck happened to you? What truck ran you over? He had no idea he did it to that guy. He had no idea he did it, because he's not in that state anymore. He feels, it's like vomiting. Nobody wants to vomit, but you do feel better. And you'll do it quicker every time because you get it over with that way. The kid fights it, then he feels better. So yeah, let me get it over with then. Yeah. So that's what the bite is, that the load overload kind of bite. So anyhow, when they're in a state of suspension, it's all knowing. And that's what I call this brain, the brain of separation. This brain, the social brain, because that's the now, the moment of the now, where if it comes into scent, smell is very important. It bypasses all the high-level nervous stuff, goes right into the gut. And my dad had an expression, dogs don't trust their eyes, they only trust their nose. That's the truth. That's the truth. So they go by nose. And then they're in their gut, and if they're in their gut and they can pendulate, all that energy of the system averages out to the heart, and now they're all knowing. Now they get all the information from the network in that rare moment in my little driving story and in the NFL guy.
Does that make sense, an unfamiliar dog and maybe a French dog, and what I'll do is I'll just for whatever reason, put my hands so they can sniff it. Does that make sense to introduce yourself to a dog?
Yeah, if he comes to you and he smells your hand, he's picking up your essence.
Yeah.
Because you knocked the stimulus is stimulating because it knocks you off balance. That's the one and only reason a stimulus is a stimulant, is it knocks you off balance. If it doesn't knock you off balance, you don't notice it. So when a little puppy's in the city, he's knocked off balance by pigeons. They're all over the place, but they just like vaporize. After a while, he doesn't even see they're milling at his feet. He doesn't even see it. They don't knock them off, they're not even stimulants anymore, because there's nothing there. So, yeah, so you knock your dog off balance, and then he smells, he grounds, completes the connection. Okay, I'm satisfied.
Well,
Got
I'm
it.
just, basically my question is that an appropriate introduction to an unfamiliar dog, just to slowly put your hand out for them to
The
smell?
best thing is to not even introduce yourself to the dog.
Okay, well, that's.
Because it's in our head, we gotta introduce ourselves.
Right, but you're saying that.
But they're in the moment. Of course you're here, you're always here.
Right.
You're not here, you're never here.
Yeah.
When I was a little kid, I used to go fishing with my dad, and I couldn't put a line out in the river. It's the salmon river in the wilds of Canada. It's brutal cold, and I'm this little kid, and I'm like, so we go up for 5 or 10 days in the spring and 10 days in the fall. And I'm this little kid, I'm saying, I'm always here. I'm always standing at this goddamn bank and playing in the puddles and freezing myself and then eating beans and hot dogs at night and sleeping in a drafty cow. I'm always here. Before I got into suspension and putting that line out, floating with that line, then it was the most beautiful thing you could possibly do. And I don't care what the weather was, just want to float with that line, draw that line in the sky. So, yeah, they're in the moment. There's no need to introduce yourself to a dog. That's in our head, acknowledgement, because
Yeah, I know.
we're people and we have to do that.
Fly fishing is reference to like being a religious experience.
Pardon?
Fly fishing, a religious experience, you know, people who are, yeah, in fact, there's a movie about that, I forget the name of it now, but, yeah.
Yeah, it's a weightlessness is what
So what,
you get
yeah,
into.
sort of,
Anything you're good at, you get weightless, and then the resistance, you're aroused by it.
yeah.
You like it. Like I love watching a dog soften. He comes in, he wants to eat me, and I love watching him soften. Because I know to know me is to love me, so it's just a matter of time. So it's just cool to watch him soften.
Yeah.
I don't take it personally. I just don't take it. I know he has no intention to bite me. He might bite me pretty badly, but that's only if I give him permission to make a mistake. My expression is, if I get bit, I went too fast.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. They always will. When they get them into a state of feeling, it's always social. It's always good. The network comes first. So once you integrate them to the network, it solves all problems. That's the motto.
So there's a thing there where you, like, when you lose the gut mind, you go into the balance, you're yelling, your output, you do instinctual behaviors, balanced behaviors, like stop would be save me from breaking my nose, right? Or grabbing the bite, gritting your teeth.
Right.
But there's an instinctual behavior that happens when you've lost the gut mind that only humans exhibit. And you mention this all the time.
Go ahead. Which one?
Thoughts.
Oh, yes.
Right? So thoughts, and they project energy, they're separating, right? So the brain is the organ of separation. So like teeth, they break situations in half, like present, past, right? Self,
Yeah.
other, right?
Thoughts separate you from your surroundings.
Right.
That's why it's the brain of separation.
So that's what I mean, it's super interesting. So if you're doing a lot of thinking, calculating, you've lost the deep intelligence.
Exactly.
Right.
That's interesting, yeah.
So
Yeah, well, look at the tennis player. If they start thinking about it,
Yeah,
they'll lose the zen moment. And sometimes you drive your car and say, wow, if I really thought about this, this would be scary.
Yeah, I'm thinking about a story I heard of a Formula One racer. I mean, he's all geared up and he's going near 200 miles an hour. And he was so in the moment that he was able to smell grass from a couple hundred yards up.
Wow, yeah.
So he knew to let off and, his pilot saved his life.
Wow.
So yeah, he was comparing it, I forget his name, he was great friends with George Harrison, so they had a great relationship because they would talk about, he's making music, he's moving people, he's at the helm of that,
Right.
kind of that control, but which is also, you're not in control. It's just such a projection of, when we sing, it's right from the gut, it's right from the,
Yeah.
so they were, I thought of that, the race car analogy.
Yeah, interstate of all-knowing,
Yeah,
weightlessness.
it's wild.
As long as you don't cheat and just take drugs and get high.
Yeah, right.
It's meant to do it. Pendulation, you gotta get there through pendulation.
All right. I think think, oh goodness, it's 12:11. All right, lunchtime. Yeah, thank you, everybody. Thanks, Kevin.